my oh my. This is the last evening of the solstice. In a few hours, the sun will finally rise a little bit later and set a little bit later than it did just a few nights ago. And then we begin the upswing. The upswing back into the more life-affirming days. But I do find it interesting that it's really not until you kind of reach the solstice itself, this rev up to the darkest days, that you start getting the coldest days. Example, most days in my area pretty much during the day the temperature was at least hovering above freezing. 34, 36 degrees, pretty effing chilly, but not freezing. When it was the day of the solstice, the 21st, it was like, I think, 27 degrees during the day. And there was really wasn't a day quite like that. Right? And so now you're getting these days that are below the freezing point. At the very, very bottom. And we all know that there's going to be more days below the freezing point for perhaps a couple months. You know, I mean, like, there was, I think, snow damn near February of this year, right? Because I remember it was very important to me. You'll see my video of me climbing Breakneck Ridge in the snow, and there was so little snow that I couldn't find a snow day or a day where there was going to be snow held on the ground for me to climb the mountain with snow and ice so I could get the maximum challenge rating that mountain has to offer. The last couple days of winter, basically, we had that big snowstorm in the Northeast, and I had made ritual to provoke the ice Jotun of that mountain, because I had trained hard. He owed me a fight, and the honorable fucker that he was showed up, gave me a good fight, and it was brilliant. Hail Thor. So the darkest days are only the beginning of the coldest days. That's what I find interesting, right? It's like it takes time for the Earth to cool down the way it takes time for the Earth to warm up. This is understood because most of the Earth's surface is water. The track of the solar path in the heavens spends a great deal of time over large enough bodies of water to have a certain effect on the heat. And this is in juxtaposition to any earth heating qualities happening under the water, because of course the water could be heated from volcanic activity that has come to rise up, and although it's a healthy level of heat away from the chasm that may be exposed to the magma, whatever part is exposed to the magma, causing a boiling effect on the bottom. That becomes part of the determining factors of the temperature of your air currents, and then the idea of what kind of weather fronts are going to be shaped by this underwater volcanic activity. That's probably more important than regular volcanic activity, unless that volcano has blown its top so hard that it's spewing miles of blackout ash, right? Very, very rarely do we have such big explosions. I think there was one recently in the Indonesian area or something that was like that. I remember something crazy going off somewhere in the Sino-Pacific, I guess. So, because the weather turns out that way, right? I do find it interesting, right? It's kind of like, all right, you've hit the pit, you've hit the bottom of the pit, and now there's this harder climb back up, right? Temperature-wise, the harsh weather, it ultimately comes across as this more difficult climb back up. Even though you think it'd be easier because now heat is rolling in. Well, the truth is that right now the cold is really that much stronger than the heat, right? One could almost say there's an imbalance between Muspelheim and Muspelheim and not Svart. What am I doing? And Niflheim, excuse me, right? Because you've got these two forces of entropy and preservation. Muspelheim is entropy. Niflheim is preservation. Because that's kind of the nature of ice as a preserver, if you will. And so the closer you get to Muspelheim, the less stasis you have, the less preservation, which also is more of the ability to move and change and express, because you're also getting filled with energy from the same source that is destroying things, right? Because it's destroying prime materia to release energy from within that prime materia, recycle the prime materia, and transfer the energy to another source, right? Muspelheim, the fire realm, the entropy realm, this is its natural state. It's not an evil state. But evil needs that state in order to perform its worst black magics. Because of the entire sacrifice against free will circumstances. Time and time again, you can see it understood that rarely was there a willing sacrifice, right? You can fault Aleister Crowley X, Y, and Z. He was really just kind of the world's first edgelord. Or not the world's first edgelord, but the first edgelord for Western civilizations media consumption, if you will, right? But within his writings, when you look past things like Edgelord, he did make statements that, like, listen, here are circumstances of human sacrifice, and it has to be a willing subject, right? But because you're looking at somebody saying, you know, like, it's hard for somebody to grasp how someone could say, I consent to you murdering me because you're going to do it this way for a higher purpose. I want to offer up, I want my soul to participate in the ritual on the other side. This is somebody who wants their soul involved with the consequences of that ritual, which is exactly what happens whenever somebody goes to fucking war. Right? You do this war-based ritual because, you know, there's a good chance you're going to die in this war. War is a lethal thing, right? It's chaos magic, though, right? You're gambling on whether you're going to be a sacrifice to Odin on that field. And it's either you or the other guy. One of you guys is getting offered up to Odin. One of you guys wants to be offered up to Odin. The other one doesn't. At least that's what's going on in man's understanding of things. But, you know, free will is free will. Odin is not going to take an unwilling sacrifice. But he may indeed be the psychopomp that manifests for the soul on the other side. But that's only going to guide them to where their heart really belongs anyway. And there aren't really good guys and bad guys the way we think, because so much of it is this weird lie involved with the dehumanization process, which any aspect of it that's true is coming solely from a place of reckless ignorance over someone that you feel threatened by, and also feel like they deserve it because they actually happened to do something terrible. And it's terrible when you're willing to kill, do serious harm, or cause serious havoc to persons whom you're just acting like they're you know, like they personally harmed you. This is the whole bit with like curse magic. Curse magic will backlash if you curse someone who hasn't directly, personally brought ill upon you, right? There's got to be a direct, provoked emotional charge because you're throwing it back at them, and that's how the curse works, right? You know, you can look at the movie Drag Me to Hell, right? The gypsy curse worked because the chick who got herself cursed was being a harsh little fucking worldly materialistic cunt, right? Who completely broke with her own fucking nature because of the pressure of circumstances to fuck someone over as a bank is not supposed to do, and was not the agenda of the bank, but the pressure of the economy of that bank upon her and her conduct, and she broke with her own code of conduct. Like she lost honor. She did something dishonorable, directly and personally, selfishly, for personal gain at the ill fortune of another. And so, because that's in there, like, that's an interesting thing about how horror films can and play out, right? When your main character, who is the victim of the horror story, is had done something that put them in the circumstances where they ultimately kind of deserved it, right? That's what's implied, right? And Drag Me to Hell is an excellent example of an actual well-placed curse as such. Now, of course, it's a movie. Those circumstances are not going to get you dragged to hell. But you're gonna, like, for what goes on in reality, I mean, like, there's a little bit of a karmic price to pay. All right. So I'm meeting a friend. I will catch you guys later.